All right, let's get started. So, first off, I want to introduce myself. So, my name is Preeti. I'm actually the career advisor for both the Chicago and Lyle campus. And so, basically, what I do is help out students with their job search process. So, revising their resume, cover letter, at the same time, helping you guys or provide networking tips and also setting up mock interviews. So what we'll be discussing right now is we'll be discussing about finding and applying for an internship. So the benefits of an internship. All right. So some people ask, what is an internship? What's the purpose of an internship? So to briefly describe it, it's basically like a structured work experience offered by an employer or an organization. And sometimes it's without pay, sometimes it's with pay. But the purpose is to gain, work experience and at the same time complete any, credit requirements. So I also wanted to mention, with students graduating with internship experiences, typically versus a student that doesn't have any internship experience, they're able to find employment or find a job quickly after graduation. And on top of that, so actually this is basically the same thing what I mentioned just now. So typically, it's easier to find employment with at least some form of internship experience. And then just as well, once you've graduated, you have typically you've built at least some form of experience, some kind of network you've built essentially within that internship. So this is actually a pretty cool fact. So basically 59% of the time, the job offer rate is actually 59% to interns. And typically 77%, or not typically, but 77.3% of the time, the interns accept the job offer, which is pretty great. So basically, after you've completed your internship, you've built a solid reputation with the employer, with the supervisor. Generally, once they're impressed by that, typically it would be, so it's generally 59% of the time that they offer that job. So furthermore, there was a study done by TalentWorks. It's a job site. And what they did was they actually selected like about 95,000 jobs. And from those 95,000 jobs, it showed that 61% of those entry-level jobs, they wanted to have candidates to have 3+ years of experience, which is pretty crazy actually, because generally when we think of entry-level positions, we think of, it's the first step entering your career field. But with the entry-level position, it does require at least minimal experience. So you're probably wondering, why, how do I get experience if the entry-level position itself, requires experience? Well, the answer is internships. So internships are your best bet to get your foot in the door into pursuing your career goal. So what are the benefits of an internship? Benefits, of course, are getting experience, like what we were saying just now. And of course, racking up those key skills. So any key professional skills that are necessary within that job field, you will be able to build that within the internship. And one of the most important parts of an internship is building a solid professional network. So nowadays, when we apply for jobs or any opportunity, half the time it's who you know. So with an internship, you'd be getting ahead of the game, you'd be building a solid network. So for instance, if you, with your supervisor, we would generally recommend building a professional relationship with your supervisor. Any other professionals within that internship would be key. And then in relation to building a network is, of course, once you've done that, you have references. So when you're applying for jobs, or if you want to have a permanent position afterwards, it would be good to, you would definitely be able to build a reference or have a reference list. And again, to branch off of skills, you would also build your confidence. So any confidence or any lack of confidence you had prior to the internship, an internship would help build your confidence. So get an understanding for, what skills that you need to improve or any skills that you have an advantage over. And then next would be figuring out, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. So the nice thing is with an internship is, say, with an internship, if there's certain areas that you do not like, it's just as important as figuring out what you do like. And then most importantly are, possible job offers. So throughout this whole process, at the very end, if the employer is impressed by how you are as an intern, they may possibly offer you the job, which is great. All right. So what is the con of not having an internship? Well, the only con and major con would be lack of opportunities. So, a student who, doesn't have any internship experience versus a student with internship experience, again, they would be at a disadvantage. So what are the top internship questions? So typically, some would ask, when should I complete an internship? What would be the best time to pursue this? And generally, we recommend from either junior year or senior year. The reason why that time is the best is because by then you have built up, you've completed a majority of your courses, you've completed half of your program, and you're able to use those experiences into your internship. So how many should you do? So at least one. It's okay I think it's great that you have more than one, but to make sure that you've reached the requirement for completing one, that's important. I recommend having more than one because the more internships that you've completed, the more experience and more beneficial for you, and the more marketable you are to other employers. So you're probably wondering, how long do they last? So typically it's 1 quarter. So that can be, 3 to 6 months. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer as well. And how do you find one? What are the best strategies of finding an internship? Well, Handshake is your best friend. Handshake is the best resource in terms of searching for an internship, reaching out to your career advisor, communicating with the Career Bridge department. And the first step with Handshake would be to upload your finalized resume and your cover letter. So that would mean, meeting with your career advisor, making sure those 2 documents are officially finalized. So you're probably wondering, what kind of work will I be doing? So typically you're able to determine the kind of work you're doing by generally looking at the internship posting. So just like a job site generally describes the job description, same thing with an internship. It'll provide like a brief blurb or description of what you'll be doing. At the same time, you will be searching for internships that best fit your program and your interests and your desired learning goals. And amongst, all of this, what if you don't have time? You're busy with school, you're working, how would you fit in an internship amongst a busy schedule? Well, the best step is to first meet with your academic advisor to develop a game plan to see, how would you be able to, have an internship while juggling a job as well as going to school. So maintaining that open communication, keeping your advisors, your career advisors in the loop is essential. And can you get academic credit? Of course you can. So internships, they generally offer 5 credits for completing 150 internship hours. So to break it down, it's basically 100 on-site hours and 50 in-class hours. So first step before applying for internships to make sure that you are achieving credit requirements is to again meet with your academic advisor. And you must be wondering, will I get paid? So some internships are paid. However, most of the internships are generally unpaid. So it's best to be flexible. It's best to be prepared to know that the internships will be unpaid. At the same time, the ones that are unpaid, sometimes they offer additional perks in place of no payment. And again, you may come across an internship that you don't enjoy. So what if you hate the work? That's totally fine. So if you don't like what you're doing, that's just as important as knowing what you want. Keep in mind, though, that if you feel like you're unhappy in the job, it's still important and still essential to maintain and have a solid, strong, professional relationship with your supervisor, because down the line, say if you want to apply for a job or pursue another career, it would be good to still use that supervisor as a reference moving forward. And so what if you love the work? That's great. That's awesome. So again, like earlier, you would want to, build up a solid network, reach out to other professionals within your internship, reach out to your supervisor to see if there are any permanent, entry-level positions. And then they will be able to put in a good word for you as well. So a best place to start your search, typically there's so many other options. There's so many resources that are thrown at you. So you want to make sure you are organized. So say for instance, you want to pursue a career, working for a nonprofit organization or working in the tech industry or even working in a law enforcement agency. The best way to start your search is just simply doing a Google search. So doing some research into these organizations, seeing exactly what you would be interested in would be key. So these are actually some of the essential online tools that CareerBridge provides. So you're able to actually find these tools on our website. So if you go to NLU's homepage and then go into the career development tab, there will be a specific section solely on career exploration tools. So for instance, the first tool is Focus 2. This is helpful for those that are still trying to explore exactly what field, what industry they're interested in. And then Candid Career, that is very helpful as well. This is actually, it's sort of like the best way to put it is kind of like a TED Talk or like a professional YouTube. So say if you want to pursue something in law enforcement, you can actually search for a person who is actually a professional within law enforcement, has a lot of years built up, and they're able to provide a solid description of what the job is like. And then next, Handshake, which we were discussing earlier. Handshake is a solid tool because, first of all, you're able to find internships, so it's a good tool to find internships. And at the same time, the reason why Handshake is much different versus all the other resources for searching for an internship is because there's less competition. So with Handshake, there's less competition, and it's also, it's solely focusing on NLU students. Next, it's Parker Dewey. Parker Dewey is helpful. Keep in mind though, Parker Dewey doesn't provide credit. So if you're trying to complete an internship to complete a credit requirement, Parker Dewey does not complete that requirement. But the nice thing is with Parker Dewey is it offers micro internships. So they're internships that are only 5 to 6 weeks long. And the great part is that it's paid. So that's always great. So these are actually some of the on-campus events that are useful for finding an internship. So the first one is our career expos. So a career expo would be any kind of job fairs that NLU would be hosting. So that's where you'll be meeting employers. They'll be answering any questions you may have. The next thing is employer spotlight. So an employer spotlight basically is when an employer comes to visit the campus, and it gives an insight on what the organization is about, what their mission is. And secondly, they actually give you insight and information on if there are any internal or any opportunities, any job postings or openings coming up in their organization. Lastly, on-campus interviews. It's generally when companies, they come onto campus and they've found your resume on Handshake, and it's basically face-to-face interviews. So for that, generally for all these events, you recommend dressing professionally. So what are the basic things that are needed to apply for an internship? So the first and foremost step, is to make sure your resume is finalized and your cover letter is also in good shape. So if you feel like, okay, I need to work on my resume, my cover letter, you can always schedule an appointment with your career advisor. The next step would be to apply to as many internships that you are interested in. But keep in mind, once, you start hearing back from these internship sites, and if they start, offering you an internship, make sure that you accept one at a time, because you don't want to feel overwhelmed if you're accepting a bunch of them at once. And then next is, to make sure you're, organized, you're managing your time well, you don't feel scatterbrained, is to keep track of the places that you've applied. So what I suggest doing is, even on your desktop, just create a new folder for just a list of companies that you've applied for. And the next thing would be to prepare for an interview. So again, if you feel like you want to strengthen your interview skills, you can always schedule a mock interview session with your career advisor. So these are our wonderful employee relations managers. So once you have, met with your career advisor, you've finalized your resume, your cover letter, you're good to go with all the basic steps before applying for an internship, you can certainly schedule a referral meeting with one of our employee relations managers. And then next, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. These are our, generally our office hours. So Monday through Friday, we're open from 9 to 5. And if you have any questions or, want to schedule an appointment with your resume or just job search process, we'd be more than happy to assist you. So thank you for attending this webinar, and I'm going to actually stop recording this, and then I'm going to start taking questions.
Hi,